Hello and welcome back to another episode of Power Rangers Lore. Today we're going to talk about Heckyl. Yes, Heckyl from Power Rangers Dino Charge and Super Dino Charge. Now he is one of my favorite villains of the current new series going on. I thought he made the most sense, and his entire storyline was from tragic to heroic to even more when they add more into the comics itself. So let's go on the story of Heckyl. Now, when we first meet Heckyl, we know that he, in the series of Dino Charge, he is a prisoner aboard Sledge's ship, and he has incredible powers that most of the other crew fears him more than any other. Now, we know that Sledge is a bounty hunter and has basically been collecting people for millions of years. Now, Sledge has been around for 65 million years because in the timeline of the Dino Charge series, he's the one who causes the essentially extinction of the dinosaurs by throwing meteors and the like onto Earth by accident, mind you, and killing the dinosaurs, which is also effectively hiding the dino gems. He also loses one of his generals in the process, and at some point later, Heckyl is captured. Now, we don't know exactly what all Heckyl did, but we know a few things. Heckyl is responsible for destroying and laying waste to countless galaxies, and that were never really named. They just constantly destroyed, devoured, or annihilated off the face of the planet or the universe itself. But he goes from basically galaxy to galaxy, constantly doing this until he's eventually captured by Sledge. Now, exactly who he was going to turn the bounty into, we don't know, or how recently he was doing it. For a bounty hunter, he's not that good of a bounty hunter because while he had all these guys he captured, apparently he was just waiting to just bring them all in at one point and not at different times. Like most bounty hunters would have one thing and go return and get their money and then go to the next one. He kind of just collected them all. So I wouldn't really call Sledge too much of a bounty hunter. I would call him more of a collector of bad people. Now, let's go on more back to Heckyl here. Now, Heckyl was put aboard his ship basically in one of the biggest isolation cells there was, the only other one being Greenzilla. Now, technically speaking, they classified as Greenzilla as the worst of the worst, but that basically he was paired up next to him. Now, Heckyl has a humanoid form, and as was revealed, with a basically able to shift over to the form of Snide. Now, it doesn't explain at first exactly why there's two people in the same body they share. Now, and it's also, while it's the same body, they do change appearances upon shifting over. So it is very interesting to watch that happen, and it is interesting as a character because they on good terms are kind of like fighting with each other constantly. Now, when he first shows up in the series, he is released by Sledge to basically mess with the Rangers and basically see if they can get an energem off of them. Now, this is really interesting for his character because instead of most villains where he just basically appears and attacks, or he plays up as his human form and pretends to be on their side, and later on in the episode they figure it out, they have no idea that Heckyl is the bad guy. So during this episode they had been giving wishes that are basically monkey's paws. If you don't know what a monkey's paw is, it's very simple. Monkey's paw is a wish essentially saying, I wish I had $1 million, and then that $1 million falling upon you and crushing you to death. So the wish was they were looking for the next Ranger that for the energem they had just found, and they were looking for several different candidates. All of them had failed them, and when basically, what was her name? Kendall Morgan. Now, she is also kind of like a mentor and tech guru of the entire series, while Keeper being the main mentor and giving advice for the series. She's there, but she creates most of the devices, helps them all out, and would later eventually on become the Purple Ranger herself. Now, at first, she had found him and thought he would be the perfect candidate to be the Purple Ranger and was about to bestow upon him that power when everything went haywire and it was snatched from him before basically he could complete his mission. And eventually he was sealed back inside of Sledge's ship after supposedly failing. Now, this would lead to basically when the Rangers defeated Sledge and crashed on the ship, we would see the reveal of him breaking out and declaring himself the new antagonist of Super Dino Charge. And for the longest time, the Rangers had no idea that he was the bad guy. Now, Snide and him would basically kind of right behind their backs would bicker and argue in like the mirrors and the like, and they would know Snide was involved, but they did not know that Heckyl was. Now, this would be a very interesting dynamic going on, and basically Heckyl introducing to them several different evil subplots, such as these coins that would make them very greedy and fight amongst each other, and the like. Him not being affected because he's already evil, and the Rangers never figured this out. Now, he would pretend to be injured at some point, and they would take him back to to their base, and he would figure it out where their base was, and basically promise he would never tell them. Now, once he figured this out, he goes, I'm going to launch a full-on plan to wipe out the Rangers. However, everything happened too quickly, and one of the monsters accidentally erased all their memories of where the base was, which completely threw off the plans entirely, and they would have to continue from there. Now, things would go awry as some new villains showed up, led none other than by Lord Arcanon? Yes, they pronounced it in the series, but I can't remember how they exactly pronounced it. It's been a little bit. I'm sorry about this. But Lord Arcanon, I'm going to call it Arcanon. It's probably completely wrong. Arcanon's probably also right too. But either way, he essentially is an intergalactic warlord who is the main catalyst behind the entire series. He is the employer behind Sledge, who basically, he hired him to go catch the Energems. He hired him basically to capture a bunch of different people and many different things. He's the destroyer of the planet Sentai 6 and basically hides many different things going on here. Now, it is in theory that he is the main antagonist of the entire series, but he doesn't last long, only about 5 or so episodes. But in those 5 episodes, we learn a lot. He is after the Energems to basically become essentially king of the universe, blah, 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 as they always say they are going to be. And he also has a background to none other than Heckyl. Now, we find out a lot more. Now, when I said he is a destroyer of Sentai 6, that is none other than Heckyl's home planet that was destroyed. And so we find out a lot right there. Now, Heckyl doesn't remember this immediately, but eventually he does start to get his memories back, and he basically starts to realize that, wait, this guy is the cause of all my misery. Now, flashback to millions of years ago. Now, Heckyl is a much more interesting character rather than just being a full villain. About several million years ago, I'm going to butcher his name again, Lord Acheron assaults basically the peace-loving planet of Sentai 6. Now, if you know, Sentai is basically catching up the word of Super Sentai. Really good job there in doing so. To gain control of none other than the Dark Energem. Yes, the Dark Energem. One of the only Energems that's made of pure evil. Now, the Dark Energem itself is born out of all the evil that was basically pushed away from the other Energems. Basically, so that's a really bad analogy. Let's just say so if you create so much good forces of good in the universe, there's got to be that evil and it's got to go someplace, and that's where it all got. You created 10 good Energems, so there's going to be one really bad one, and that's what it is. Now, Heckyl tried to protect it from Lord Acheron to get a hold of it, and basically he ran away. His planet was destroyed, and when he was running away, he fell, and the containment box that was in fell out, and he basically accidentally grabbed it with his bare hands, and he was surrounded by dark energy and basically became bonded with it. The evil Energem corrupted him and turned him into Heckyl as we know him today, and the evil, monstrous alter ego known as Snide. Now, basically, he would retrieve the Energem, and I would assume at this point, Heckyl is probably tortured into forgetting this whole thing, and the evilness inside of him just made it pushed away and turned all those dark emotions into something else and buried those memories deep down. Now, things would go on from there, and at the point that they would figure out that Snide and him no longer were needed, and they were going to get out. Now, Snide negotiated his way out of this, and is basically split off from Heckyl himself. So Snide and Heckyl are separated by none other than the split emitters that would basically use to split another character from their dark side. Now, at this point, Heckyl is basically forced to run for his own survival, and he vows to rebuild his homeworld, but he doesn't know how that's going to happen, and flees. He manages to escape the ship, makes his way to the woods, and kind of just camps out there with no real idea what to do next. He has plans, but he doesn't know how to get them done, and kind of just works his way through. So at the same time, he's also kind of spying on his old self, Snide, and kind of watches as Snide makes manipulations and secret plots amongst his new quote-unquote allies to make way for none other than the return of Sledge. Because Sledge was not killed, he had basically faked his death in order to get some other stuff done. Now, what happens there is that eventually he kind of like watches all go down and doesn't really interfere, because he goes like, what do I care? They're all, if he betrays them, he deserves to be destroyed, and well, maybe the Rangers will fix it up from there. But then he sees the Dark Energem now in Sledge hands, and he encounters 3 of the Rangers and basically tells them about all this stuff, and they go, why should we believe you? And he goes, well, I'm not really evil anymore, but like, you can believe what you will. He's no longer a threat. Like, I'm no longer evil. The Dark Energem's influence is gone from me. Once I got my memories back, I realized I'm good. And he even tries to save the Rangers, earning their trust. Now, he still has his energy blast and the like of his normal powers, so that is still pretty cool. Now, here's where everything goes to crap pretty quickly in this series. Now, Snide makes a last attempt to kill the Rangers. Heckyl offers to assist in putting an end to his dark half forever. They basically help the Rangers prevent Sledge from tearing the Earth in half by destroying the Dark Energem. But by destroying the Dark Energem, they create a black hole. Yes, a black hole just like right outside the doorstep of Earth's atmosphere, which devours Earth and swallows Sledge's ship and basically destroys it. Now, that's very interesting all, and it does not end there. Now, the Rangers watch this and realize, oh my god, they messed up. So they are forced to go back in time by activating the powers of the 10 Energems. Now that the Dark Energem is gone, that was repressing their full power, they're able to go back in time to 65 million years in the past. Wait, why does that sound so familiar? I don't know. The 65 million years thing constantly comes up in Power Rangers. And they would do battle with Sledge's crew from the past before they even knew who the Power Rangers were. It gets time convoluted and annoying, but they are able to stop, essentially, Sledge back in the past, thus rewriting the future and preventing the dinosaurs from ever dying due to a meteor storm, thus creating its own universe. Now, Sledge would be destroyed there, but Heckyl's would continue to go on, and Snide would be destroyed. Now, Heckyl would basically be given the honor of becoming Keeper with Xenowing's help to basically become the Keeper of the Dark Energem. And that would be basically the end of Dino Charge. Now, that's not the full story end of Heckyl. It would continue on from there. Now, Heckyl would become the first official Keeper of the Energem, of the Dark Energem, but also the last, because it would end up pretty quickly. Now, he and Xenowing would return back to Sentai 6 before the destruction of it by the Lord Akon, and basically, Heckyl starts to get paranoid. Well, when you would too if you had to keep this device again from going basically in the hands of the dark forces of darkness and creating what just happened beforehand. But there's also the fact that he knows it's coming. He knows what's going to happen, and he knows he can stop basically destruction of his planet. And so he starts to build a morpher. But not just any morpher, a morpher for the Dark Energem, based on the designs of Xenowing's Dino Charge morpher. Now, this would cause Lord Archon to find the location of Sentai 6, at which Xenowing was going, what the hell are you doing? In an act of desperation, basically, Heckyl just throws Xenowing in a room and locks it and goes like, I know what I'm doing! I'm not crazy! And uses the Dark Energem to morph into a corrupted version of a Dark Ranger. Now, with his newfound power, it destroys Lord Archon before he's able to do anything, and basically it attempts to turn Heckyl into Snide again. However, Xenowing arrives, and Heckyl's side uses his magic to fear the Dark Energem's influence on him and sacrifices himself in the process. Yeah, that whole thing goes down in the comics, and you're going, whoa, Xenowing's now dead. Heckyl was almost turned again back into Snide, and now Heckyl is just floating out in space, blaming himself for Xenowing's death, believing that he deserved to die and he should never return to Sentai 6. That is not like a redemption of a character. That's just like an actual progression of somebody going just crazy a little bit. Now, mind you, that was all in the comics. sorry, comics by Boom Studios. Now things would go on from there. Now, after the events of Shattered Grid, Heckyl would be found essentially just floating in space, and he would be retrieved by several different rangers. And he would basically have a heart-to-heart with none other than the Ranger Slayer herself, Kimberly. And basically, when she inquired about his origins, he basically goes, I regret everything I did. I was under the influence, but part of it was me, and it's my fault. Now, of all the characters that he could have basically had a heart-to-heart with, it was best that he did with the Ranger Slayer, because she kind of had the same thing. She was brainwashed by none other than Lord Draken, and essentially could feel that, and she gives him the best advice possible. He's like, stop looking in the past, you can't change it, but remember the future. If you keep looking in the past, you're doomed to basically keep going through it, especially if you keep dwelling on it, it's just going to eat you up inside, and you're just going to keep repeating that same process. Now, he does learn from this, as far as we know, and would go on from there. Now, that is Heckyl's story as of now, and he might see in the future with connections to what's going on in Dino Fury, good because of Dino Charge going on there. Now, this is alternate timeline. They've already had Dino Charge mixed with Beast Morphers, maybe crossing dimensions. I don't see why not, especially with Lord Zed coming back. There's a lot of things they could bring in there. Now, I would love to see Heckyl. I hope you guys would too. I really liked his character back and forth there. But now let's get on to his powers and abilities. Now, mind you, when I said that he had bonded with the Dark Energem, he really did. So basically, he is the bearer of the Dark Energem in every sense of the word. Essentially, he was the first one to touch him. Now, he is humanoid and human, but that's why he was able to survive millions of years, because he is bonded to the Dark Energem, and that's basically tells at the beginning of the series, they go, hey, by the way, if you're bonded to an Energem, you're essentially eternal youth. You have that. So he has that immediately. So that's pretty awesome, and he's high durability. Now, even in his human form, he's high durable, but when he's in snide form, he's even stronger. Now, he has lightning beams, basically shooting from his hands, and the like. He has interesting goggles that is capable of detecting hidden sources of energy and power. It doesn't really fully explain, but he basically just pulls them over and he's able to see things. And because they look like steampunk, it's kind of a fashion statement. He can basically do it without basically having anyone suspect. He has a pocket watch, which allows him and Snide to connect and talk directly. That's how he uses the reflection there. And he has a transforming tattoo. Now it's on the back of his neck here, and he basically can when it glows, it's basically admitting that they're going to change over and switch. And we don't know exactly how he got this, but we know he lost it when essentially they eventually split apart. So that's pretty cool there. And then lastly is his morpher, which is very similar to the Dino Charge morpher, but basically just more corrupted and cooler, in my opinion. Now, let me know what you guys think. And do you guys like Heckyl? I know I love Heckyl from the series. I thought he was great, especially when he first introduced himself as a basically one-of-the-mill, one-off monster, and then coming back again, showing, yeah, that was my grand reveal. I'm back. I'm your main villain for a little bit. It's pretty cool. Let me know, guys, what you think. Thank you, guys. Remember, may the power protect you always. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe at the end of this video. All your likes help me out, and all your watchers do too. Thank you very much, guys. I would really like to discuss with you guys what your topics are. May the power protect you always.